Hello everyone and welcome. In this recording, I'm going to be speaking about this upcoming full moon that we have in the sign of Aries on the 9th of October 2022. Now, this full moon is quite an intense one because the sign of Aries in this astrological year, so basically the spring of 2022, when the sun entered into the sign of Aries, a lot of energies have been brewing there, so to speak. If we go back to the spring, Mercury, Venus, most of the outer planets were in this part of the sky. Jupiter freshly entered into Aries, where it began its approximately 1.5 year transit in this part of the sky. And right now, this is also where Jupiter is retrograde, and it's almost touching Pisces, but more importantly, it is touching the 0 degrees of Aries, which is the world stage. So something action, Aries happens on the world stage, which changes how we collectively perceive Jupiter justice, perhaps even the implication of religion and spirituality and faith in our everyday lives. And this can be something quite, collective, which is spoken about, which is shared greatly, but at the same time, because this is like a strong karmic energy, it will also affect us deeply personally, where, as I said, our faith crystallizes within us, and that crystalline state of being, if that even makes sense, because this is a bit alchemical what I'm talking about, that kind of gives us the singularity, the concentration, to use a very important aspect that takes place at around the full moon, where Mercury holds a trine with Pluto. And Pluto at this time is already direct, in the sense that it's standing still in the sky, going direct. Stationary direct. Pluto and every outer planet, when they go direct or retrograde, their standstill is that very more impactful and significant. So this is a major empowerment. This is a something that births a solution. Maybe a forced solution, a compromise kind of solution. Why? Because Mercury is in tension with Mars in Gemini, and Mercury's ruling sign. So diplomacies, alliances, communication, negotiation is somewhat under a state of pressure, but it gets the job done. But also, the way this plays out on the world stage is quite, how should I say, obvious in so very many different ways, and in so very many different conflicts. Some older conflicts, for example, I'm sorry, what happened in the medical world, what happened in the medical industry as a branch, as a Saturnian branch, as a structure of our collective lives. Saturn squaring Uranus. So there is going to be quite significant topics that will play out in the world. And this is where solutions also have to be born. And some of those solutions, as I said, are going to be quite forced, because the necessity, there's either no time to wait or the situation requires it. So yeah. And in a certain way, under a crystalline state, this is extremely helpful, because when we should have moments of doubt, we don't. We just know how to take what is being offered to us, delivered to us, where we're progressing forwards because of this Mercury trine Pluto. The Mercury trine Pluto gives us that strength of determination to do it, or, the situation of compromise. The solution is not ideal, or the solution is more complicated than the problem itself, but under this strong psychological empowerment, instead of being the darker Virgo and hair splitting, this is not good, that's not ideal, but this and that and that, instead we embody this Jupiter in Aries and say, okay, so this is what I have to work with, I have to go and do it with what I have. And this is where the universe wants us to get, so to speak. That, okay, this is what we have to work with. The results of Mercury retrograde conclusions in all of our lives. And as Mercury heads back into Libra, those are legal as well, so it will influence us financially, contractually, work-wise, time-wise, schedule-wise, future plans-wise, alliances, friendship-wise, and of course for a lot of people in marriages and their partnerships. So you can imagine everything basically hangs in balance. And when, karmic energies target someone's deeper value system in their partnerships, you can imagine that that will cause a certain collective psychological instability on one hand, but then everyone will start working on their own personal issues on the other hand. So that means a very, very busy time when tumultuous actions are going to be taken. And what does that mean on the world stage in the weeks to come? Disruptions and unexpected situations. When the workflow changes, when the financial behavior of a population changes, when preferences of people suddenly, unexpectedly change. Because perhaps psychologists might think that collective changes are over a period of time, give it a bit of a time. It's almost impossible to happen simultaneously to everyone as if they would be possessed by something spiritual, let's say, value systems to change overnight. This is impossible, right? Well, let's wait until this new moon and after, because as I said in the horoscope, and I'm so sorry that it had a sudden ending, Mercury is doing his job, as I see in my life as well. But where I wanted to go with this is that, we are definitely going to be feeling this energy because it prepares us for the upcoming eclipses. So this is a preparation. The crystalline state means to prepare us. But this Jupiter, this is where we also have to use what we have in our lives right now to make it, to succeed, to do it. Because it's going back, it's gonna start touching Pisces. And until it does, even if it's so very close, that Jupiter in Aries spiritually requires us to come with the baggage of hope and the dreams and the faith and the ideals, the principles and the philosophies, the courage, the bravery, to know ourselves, to know our truths. It still requires us to embody this deeply, because after it starts going back into Pisces, that's when the ball is in the ethers, the universes, the divines, or our own unconscious, says court. So that's when it will be fate's turn to reflect that which we are pumping into reality right now. Sorry, and another specific to this full moon is that it's conjunct Chiron, while the moon is conjunct Venus. So this also means that Venus and Chiron are opposing each other. On the world stage, collectively speaking, without a shadow of doubt, this will trigger ancestral wounds. So, when nations and ethnic groups don't get along with one another, and that old wound can be reactivated one way or another in order for justice, Jupiter, to happen. And it's not just Jupiter, it's Libra energy. Libra is all about justice system, so there is going to be some, but individually speaking, this can also activate our wounds, our wounding, and our wounding may determine the direction that we'll be taking. But this is where the wound is one thing, but this opposition to Venus, what did we do with the wound? How much are we allowing the wound to control our decisions and choices in life and the value we put in partnerships? So of course, maybe some people might feel under this full moon that actually the wound is stirring them into a survival mentality. But maybe that's how it's supposed to take place in their life. Survival instinct can activate very strongly under this Chiron. For other people, still, this is where all of their past wounds made them so wise, Sol, the moon, conjunct Chiron, that they have no fear in their hearts now. They know their truth. They know lives, true values. So perhaps not knowing 100% some things about their own inner values or the values of their loved ones is not necessarily that big of a problem, because they know lives, core, true values. So they're already in the right place because they have a very healthy standard and comparison system, Libra, the skills of justice. So this is how, exactly the wounds of some people are advantaging them, because the wounds gave them a lot of wisdom, compassion, and some people are gonna become healers themselves under this full moon. This is almost like with Chiron, a karmic exam of a healer when they get their degree, when they get their graduation, when they get their well done, of course, from the universe. And the universe works through other people, Libra, others, their partnerships, relationships, etc. And this energy, because you see the sun holds a trine with Mars. And the trine is active, ongoing, so it's not the strongest trine, but it's a crescendo trine. So it will grow stronger after this full moon. But it still is a massive help. Because Libra, an air trine, you're seen. You're not invisible. There are people out there who can help you, guide you, inspire you. Represent you sometimes, Libra, lawyer, or the perfect professional, best friend, sister, sibling, family, Gemini. There is love, care, compassion out there. And the other trine is with Saturn, another air trine, if you can see. It is absolutely wonderful, because the Saturn in Aquarius, through determination, through morality, through actually being even mentally disciplined, you solve problems, you get there. And Mars trine Saturn, that is always an empowering energy. Either mentally, either you get inspired, or you get a mentor, Saturn, in your life, an inspirational figure, or some kind of help. Sometimes charitable help, institution. You get some kind of structure in your life, inner structure, mental structure, because after all, air energy. But how truly helpful, wonderful, blissful is that? That that does a lot, really, to be totally honest with you. And you see, the other aspect is a quincunx with Uranus. A sun holds a quincunx with Uranus. So Uranus and Taurus value, help, is always there. We just need to open our eyes and be brave enough to ask for it, to take it, to identify it even. So this Uranus with the quincunx, being brave, bold, but in a foolish way, in a total irrational way, will get in all the wrong places. But having a moment of courage when it is actually needed, and you know, by heart, by mind, by intuition, whatever, but you know that courage has its place, or an unusual gesture, let's say. Let's not speak about courage. A gesture that you can do randomly, spontaneously, and you know deep inside you that it's not foolish, quite the opposite. It can lead to unexpectedly good situations. You do it under this energy. But you judge it, quincunx. You need to judge it. If it's foolish, if it's like truly, something very uninspired, then why do it? Why be that kind of brave? But if it can truly do something big and you have not really anything to lose, then this energy favors it. And it's material. It can be material because it's Taurus and you don't know who you can attract with this energy. But planned attractions will not work under this energy. When you're planning to attract someone based on, you study a person and I should do this and that or whatever to attract them, don't do that right now because it will not lead to very good results. But the other trines, well, they speak directly with the sun, and the sun illuminates the moon. So it's a really helpful energy here. Yes, we have the ongoing square between Saturn and Uranus, so it changes our ongoing, the wrecking ball. And yes, of course, speaking about Pluto, this also takes place under Pluto square Aries. Aries will be somewhere around here at 24 or 23 degrees of Aries. And that means social unrest. That means all of what we have been used to for some years now. People and the collective feeling moon is going to be heavily triggered. Maybe financial tactics by governors or politicians are going to upset people, or restrictive measures. That is also very probable under this full moon, that is what triggers people. For example, certain restrictive measures similar to the COVID, either financially or health-wise, or a stronger sense of dictatorship, might really, really agitate and trigger people. This is the moment of revolutions. One of them. But still, even the light of this Aries full moon wanes under the upcoming eclipses, so I would not like to magnify the effects of it more than Jupiter himself. But we are gonna see outbursts out there, and even in our lives. But this is where, because of those trines, we can truly make this energy our own, in the most positive sense. We can truly fight for what we believe in, and build something, do something with resources that we have in our lives right now. Because this full moon ultimately is a completion. We will see the road ahead. Maybe not on the long journey, but at least what we necessarily need to do immediately. Either, very rationally with this Gemini and Mercurial energy, or sometimes just by sheer instinct, by wisdom sometimes, Chiron conjunct the moon. Or sometimes this is where we quantum leap into something unknown and mysterious, and it feels like a great completion. So, yes. And also, before I don't forget, legally, in the legal world, legislation, trials, this will rock, basically, like an earthquake. The traditions of the jurisdictions of certain places in the world, things that they haven't even dreamed of before, in shape and form of trials and legal cases being solved by magistrates. So those are going to be so unique that all of us are in for something new. Now, if that is going to be more positive or is not going to be seen with really good eyes by people, that I am not sure what to say, because it can go either way, really. But let's remember the Virgo part. We need to solve problems, so everyone has to be a bit tolerant under this sky, both individually in our lives with our partners, children, friends, everyone. But also as a collective, we need to be tolerant with our neighbors and ethnical stuff, especially in those parts of the world where there were issues, colonization and stuff like that. There are wounds, heavy wounds there. And this Chiron works hard, So yeah, and the moon, so we're gonna feel it, all of us are gonna feel it. So let's embody love, because love is the only thing that cannot go wrong. That is the only guarantee. But unconditional love. Because you see, this Mercury, fortunately at this time of this new moon, it barely opposes Neptune. But, this is not an easy energy. So we also need to know how to use faith in a very healthy way. How to pump hope, optimism, and basically soul nurture into our beings for us to be strong under this energy. And because this might not represent crisis for everyone, but this will represent a moment when action needs to be taken one way or another for everyone. Even if your life is totally perfect, when there is a period when you have to go and work, when you have to go and do it. And when you do stuff, of course there will get complications and miscommunication, the mercurial stuff. But the only way to protect yourself is not to do it. Doing something immediately involves that. Of course there are going to be complications, but that's part of the game. That's part of the alchemy. We must not run from complications. There does not exist the perfect choice, the perfect action, there is no perfect. The only perfect is when the divine triggers something out of our deep unconscious, but that is understandable to us in itself, so it can't even be measured, but that's the only perfection there is. We as human beings always will have a slight element of whatever imperfection has to mean for us personally, but the imperfection is the spice. It is sometimes the humor, sometimes the gold, actually. So yes. So I do hope that this was helpful and it resonated. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for all the love and all the support. And again, I apologize for the sudden disruption in